Well, my friends, we've been saying for a while that Barack Obama may be in some trouble election-wise. Now, while we conservatives are licking our chops and chomping at the bit and biting our lips waiting for that first Tuesday in November, the liberals seem to be somewhat, shall we say, disenchanted. Case in point, super liberal actor John Cusack, one of the more vocal and, let's not deny it, unpleasant critics of conservatives. Well, he's taken Obama not only to task, but to the actual woodshed, because in an interview with law professor Jonathan Turley, Cusack calls Obama just another Ivy League part of the gastrointestinal tract. Now, let's bring in Trifecta stalwarts Scott Ott and Steve Green to share in the fun, shall we? Gents, here's why I find this so interesting, because to me, it's a great example of the disease of modern liberal thinking. Steve, in this interview, Cusack and Turley repeatedly show how Obama has codified the drone assassinations of American citizens abroad, and time again state how the left is ignoring these outrage like these execution panels on the part of the Obama administration. So far it sounds like some real honesty from the far left, but then they both say, again, repeatedly say, that the problem is that this creates a precedent, which will be a problem when the Republicans get into office, because despite these outrages, Obama and Eric Holder are nice guys. They say that again and again, too. These two are shredding the Constitution worse than they hated George W. Bush, but they're nice guys. What?
Well, the thing you have to remember about progressives is it's not about the power. That's a given. They love power, and they absolutely love absolute power. It's about who wields the absolute power. And when things don't work out for the left, and things never do work out for them, then they say it was because the wrong people they hate, that were holding the absolute power they adore. You know, they blamed Imperial France on Napoleon. They blamed the Soviet Union's failures on Stalin. Someday they'll sort of face the music and blame Obama for this mess, but they're never, ever going to blame their ideas, and that's why Cusack just seems so crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, 4 years, probably 300 episodes of Trifecta, and Steve Green for the all-time movie reference prop use ever. Steve, say anything. Scott, both of these guys fear a Romney presidency worse than that of the Constitution shredding innocent people executing nice guys currently in office. Now, we know that Obama lets his brother virtually starve to death in Kenya while exhorting the rest of us to pay higher taxes, since we're our brother's keeper after all. Mitt Romney, on the other hand, Scott, famously works behind the scenes to help people he barely knows. Now, do you think that the cancer-causing Bane vampire will be worse than the nice guys that we have in office now?
Yeah, it's funny, I actually just heard a story today that Mitt Romney actually stopped and helped a guy dig out a stump one day, and spent like 6 hours helping him do it when there were no cameras around, there was no media. He just saw that the guy was having a hard time getting the stump out of the ground, and which is just amazing. Now, I'm like the anti-Steve Green, because I have no idea why he was holding a boombox above his head, nor do I have any idea why I'm supposed to know John Cusack, although he looks vaguely familiar to me. But I think it's fascinating that a law professor, Jonathan Turley, chose to be interviewed by this great sage of professional constitutional wisdom. What are these people going to do with their unicorn, as you call him? I mean, he's shattered all their dreams and expectations, and they don't know what to do other than the fact that their primary system doesn't allow for any alternatives. They're stuck with him.
John Cusack's definitive moment in the pop culture was when he held a boombox above his head, sending a message to a girl. That was only, I don't know, 30 years ago, something like that. Steve, Cusack writes that Obama, like Bush and Hillary, have crossed a moral Rubicon, beyond which he cannot follow. Turley talks about a protest vote for Romney. Now, the question is, Steve, do we need protest votes, or will the lack of voter enthusiasm we hear from arch-liberals like Cusack and Michael Moore last week, does that mean Obama is in desperate trouble?
Yeah, I read a piece, and I think the Washington Examiner on Monday or Tuesday, talking to these undecided voters who had voted for Obama in 2008, and they're all just completely dispirited. Now, if these people, they may not even bother to show up to vote this time, and that is one vote that Obama is not going to get from each of them, which helps Romney. And if they do go, these people were telling sad, sad stories about their lives these last 4 years. If these people do show up at the polls, do you think they're going to flip that lever for Obama? Because I don't. He's had 4 years to make that sale, and incomplete is not a good grade.
Well, Steve, I can see the sincerity in your eyes. In your eyes. Scott, same thing for you. If you've lost the morally outraged hard left, and they are always morally outraged, and they're outraged, and they're morally outraged, and have they left the building? Have you lost the election if you lose these angry, angry, angry liberals?
Quite possibly, and I'm intrigued with the idea because you hear it from, you know, the so-called hard right, but really it's kind of the Ron Paul people within the Republican coalition who are basically saying, hey, we've got to teach the Republican Party a lesson, so we're not going to show up and vote for this guy, or we're going to have some sort of a protest vote. I would love to see a Romney protest vote. Yeah, why don't you guys, Cusack, Turley, all your buddies, why don't you teach this Democrat Party a lesson that they won't have you to kick around anymore? They can't take your vote for granted anymore unless they get a true progressive, ultra liberal on the ballot. They don't own you, man.
And you know, the beautiful thing about this is that there is nobody more liberal or progressive than Barack Obama. That's the beauty of it. You see, my friends, when this thing comes down, this was their best shot. It's their best shot, and it's going down in flames. You know, in 2008, Obama brought in millions of new voters, maybe as many as 20 or 30 million, but the overall turnout as a percentage of the population was actually slightly lower than it was in 2004. Now, that meant that for every new Obama voter coming to the polls, a conservative voter sat that one out. I don't think any of us are planning to sit this one out. Combined with things like National Empty Chair Day, the success of the Obama 2016 documentary, the latest polls, and other tea leaves, I would say that this president and his attorney general are in deep, deep trouble. And it couldn't happen to a nicer couple of guys. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.